You know, those conversations that matter the most, they're the ones where emotions are running high, your words don't come out the right way, or you walk away thinking, that is not what I meant to say. Well, this episode is for these moments. We're diving into the brain and the body, and we're giving you practical ways to stay grounded, clear, and connected when it counts the most. Welcome to The Brain Changers, a podcast about learning how to revolutionize the way you think and live by mastering your mind. We're your hosts, mother and daughter duo Rebecca and Yvonne King from Moonbeam Monday. Our goal is to empower you to live the life you choose by teaching you how to retrain your brain. Some people tell us it sounds like mind control, and it is, but not the way you might think. This is about you taking control of your own mind rather than letting your mind control you, so you can choose to live a life free from the expectations of others. No matter what you've experienced in the past, you can create positive change and transformation by learning how to master your mind. We know this because we've done it. Between us, we've survived cancer and stroke and eliminated debilitating anxiety and depression. We've turned our pain into purpose through the power of our mind, and we're now here to support and guide you to do the same. In this podcast, we share valuable insights about how your brain works, why you think, say, and do the things you do, how to begin the process of change, and why it's necessary. Because we know that when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to the Brain Changers podcast. I'm Rebecca, and as always, I'm here with my mum Yvonne. And today we're wrapping up our series on mastering meaningful communication. So far in this series, we've explored the brain filters that distort what people hear and the unconscious patterns or meta programs that explain why smart, capable people still talk past each other.
Hello and welcome everyone. And today, yes, we're bringing it all together in the moments that really matter most, the ones where emotion is involved. Now, you know these conversations, they're the ones that where we're trying to communicate something really important and the words, or we feel that the words just don't land properly. They're not heard as we meant them to be heard. So it could be that we're trying to stay really well composed, but your heart's racing, your mind's busy building a defense because you might suspect what's coming. And it feels like you've suddenly forgotten how to speak like an adult. And that's actually because our brain has been hijacked, or at least it certainly feels that way, doesn't it, sometimes? But let's start by just explaining what's happening to us on a physiological point of view, because it isn't just about mindset in this situation, it's about the nervous system. When a conversation starts to feel emotionally charged or risky, even slightly, our amygdala kicks into gear. Now, this is the part of the brain that's designed to keep us safe. And when it thinks that we're under threat, doesn't care if it's a lion or if it's just a colleague questioning your decision, it sees it as a potential threat. And it floods our system with stress chemicals like cortisol, our heart rate shifts, and this prefrontal cortex that we use for logic and problem solving starts to be deactivated. And when you think about it, perhaps if you think back to conversations you've had, you might recognize that that's exactly what happens. So what does that mean for you and me when we're in these situations? Well, even if we want to stay calm, articulate, and just remain talking about what we're supposed to be talking about, our brain might be stuck somewhere else in protection mode. So this is not you just failing, and it's not just because you're weak. It's actually because this is the way that our brain has developed over time to protect us.
That's exactly right. I love that example. It may not be a lion, it doesn't matter whether it's a lion chasing you or a colleague speaking to you, your brain just sees it as exactly the same. So,
Exactly.
this is, of course, and I don't know anybody who's had a lion chasing them recently, but we've all got colleagues who we've had misunderstandings with. And this is actually how misunderstandings can escalate when emotions are high, right? So, what happens when we're in this dysregulated state? Well, we tend to default to our own filters and styles. Remember, in the previous episodes, we've been talking about it's great to understand our own filters and styles, but actually, what we want to do is understand other people's filters and styles as well so that we can flex to them. So, in this situation, we default to our own rather than flexing to the other person's style. We can lose access to our curiosity and to nuance. So we don't actually pick things up that we might do when we're in that calm, regulated state. And we can get stuck in our way of thinking and feeling and talking rather than getting curious about what's actually going on here. Of course, this can lead to making assumptions based on tone or based on timing. We all know what happens when we make assumptions. I know this happens a lot in the non-spoken word. Remember, if we're talking, if we're sending emails, there's a real, we can make assumptions about tone, for example, and this starts happening even face to face when we're feeling a bit dysregulated. And we interpret messages emotionally, not logically. We are meaning making machines. We're the only mammal on the planet who actually puts meaning around things where often there is no meaning. So it's that moment where someone might say, we need to talk. And immediately we feel like, our hackles go up and we start thinking, oh my goodness, I've done something wrong. And that's not necessarily the case, is it? We just start putting all this meaning, we make assumptions, and we go into this protection mode. Or it could be when a team member gives you feedback and you stop listening halfway through because your brain is already in damage control, right? It's already thinking, how can I either get out of this or what can I do to fix this, rather than listening to everything that that person has to say. And this is often why conversations fall apart or people get frustrated. Or there's misunderstanding. It's not because people don't care, but because they're in survival mode. And if both people are dysregulated in this conversation, I know I can think of a couple of situations where that's been the case in the past. The word stubborn, obviously, it will often comes to mind when this is happening. It's like, well, they're not listening to me and they're not moving and neither am I. But it's actually because we're both in survival mode. We're thinking that that lion is chasing us, but in fact, this is just a conversation.
Yes, yes, that's it's important to recognize that point that you made there, Beck, that we switch back to what's important to us when we feel under threat.
Mm.
So that was a point well taken. But now I want to share some tools with
Mm.
people because it's all very well to recognize the issue. What can we do about it?
Mm.
And something that I'm going to share with you, it's everybody's talking about it at the moment. Apparently, it's trending all over social media. It's something that everybody's talking about, but guess what? It's not new.
No, it's not.
In fact, we're talking about breathing and breath work. And we know that this can be used as a tool for self-regulation, for grounding, for clarity, and we know that it's been around for thousands of years. This is something that people across all cultures, all traditions, and all healing systems have fallen back on time and time again as something to really help us in these periods of stress. And guess what? It's something that we can do for ourselves and it's free. So that's
Mm.
a really good start, isn't it?
That's right.
But here's the reason that it has stuck around, that it's been available to us for so long. When we use our breath intentionally, we're not just calming the mind, but we're signaling that it's okay to return to safety for our body. So it gives these signals to our body. In fact, it's one of the fastest ways to influence the vagus nerve, which is a key part of our parasympathetic nervous system. And this is important because this is the system that controls our ability to rest, digest, and to feel safe. So, how do we do it? Well, long, slow exhales in particular activate the vagus nerve and bring your body back into regulation. And really, when we do this, what we're doing, it's like when we've lost internet connection and then we bring the computer comes back to life, we're back online. This
Yes.
is what's happening in our body. We're bringing ourselves back online, back into regulation. So, before these high stakes conversations, if we know that we are going to be faced with particular conversations, or maybe it could even be mid conversation where we feel that things are just getting a little bit off track,
Mhm.
just pause. I think you've talked in previous podcasts about that brief pause. Just
Mm.
stop, just one conscious breath with an extended exhale, it can begin to change your internal state. And some people think that it sounds oversimplistic. They don't believe that something so simple could be so effective. But the science is robust on this. The science demonstrates to us that it does really work.
Yes. Isn't it interesting that we sometimes think that it can't be that simple? I remember thinking this years and years ago before I knew really how my brain worked. I was in the depths of depression and anxiety and not feeling good. And there were a few tools that were introduced to me, and I was like, oh, it can't be that easy.
Mm,
Otherwise, everybody would be doing it.
mm,
Well, yeah, guess what? We do like to complicate things. And this is one really, really simple but robust tool. And yes, you're right, the power of the pause. And for anybody out there who doesn't believe it, well, I encourage you to give it a try and see what happens,
yes.
right?
Mm,
So there's these three practical tools that we want to share with you to take into those emotionally charged conversations. And you've just shared one of those with us, but it is regulating before you communicate. So you know why now, because you've just spent a little bit of time explaining to us why the power of the pause works and why even taking one conscious breath works, what it's doing for our system. What this might look like is what we just suggested, pausing before responding. I think we can fall into that trap of thinking, well, somebody's just said something to me. I have to respond straight away, or I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm going to look stupid, or they're going to jump in with something else. But actually, there's a lot of power in that pause. And we don't have to do anything. If this is going to help us regulate our own system and even help the conversation, then it's certainly worth doing. Another thing that you can do, this may not be when you're right in front of someone, but you can actually place a hand on your chest or your abdomen. Like if you're sitting at a table, you might put your hand on your abdomen and just anchor your breath. So it's about becoming aware of your breath. We talk about awareness all the time. It's anchoring your breath. Like I said, you can do this under the table without anybody noticing. And this is very grounding. It just brings you back to that present moment. If you are breathing quite hard or fast, it gives you that moment to just say to yourself, okay, it's all right. I am safe and I can just slow down. And an especially important part about this breathing or this breath work is introducing a longer exhale. So, exhaling longer than your inhale, because this is what engages the parasympathetic nervous system. So, we've talked about the 4-7-8 breathing technique before. It's inhaling for the count of 4, it's holding your breath for the count of 7, and exhaling for the count of 8. So, you can see that we're actually exhaling for double the amount of time that we inhaled. And this is actually sending a signal to your parasympathetic nervous system that it is okay to rest, that you are safe. So that's number one, regulating before you communicate. Number two, staying curious. So when you feel yourself judging, and we all do it, when you feel yourself judging or getting defensive or even withdrawing from a conversation, ask yourself, what might they be needing right now that I'm not seeing? Because we tend to go into this protection mode, as you mentioned. But one of the reasons is because perhaps we're not hearing or understanding what the other person is trying to communicate to us. So flipping this in our head and trying to see it from their perspective. This gets your brain out of protection mode and back into connection, right? It's like rising above yourself. Where this is one of the techniques that we actually use in our coaching is rather than getting stuck in the emotion because we can't see things clearly, we can imagine ourselves rising up above ourselves. You know, if I was doing it right now, I'd perhaps be rising up to the ceiling and looking at myself from above there and seeing the situation for what it really is. So it's getting us out of that protection mode and disassociating ourselves from that particular emotion at that moment so we can see things logically again.
Mm.
And then number three, saying what's happening out loud. All right, so we've got so much going on in our head when we're in this protection mode, when we're feeling defensive. We've potentially got this internal dialogue just going over and over again. But actually naming this moment can disarm tension for both of you because it's quite possible but that the other person in this conversation is feeling uneasy or defensive as well. So you could try one of these. You could say, I can actually feel myself getting worked up right now, and I really want to stay with you, stay connected with you here. Right? Or you might say, this is a hard conversation for me, but I understand that it matters. Can we just take a breath for a moment? Or even, I can feel myself getting defensive, and I really want to stay open to this conversation. Now, these might seem like hard things to say at the time. It gets easier with practice, of course, but what this does is it humanizes the situation, right? It's actually disarming in a good way. And often it's the moment that things in the conversation begin to soften because what it's doing, as well as giving you a moment to regulate, is actually giving the other person permission to soften as well, right? And it takes potential conflict out of the moment. You're being upfront, open, and honest with them. They can see that you're getting defensive or this is a hard conversation. And what you'll usually find is that person will take a step back as well. And it gives you both time to recalibrate and then continue in a more productive way.
Yeah, I really like those, Beck. I think they're, as you say, they bring some reality back to the conversation,
Mm,
don't they? And they give you both the chance to just step back and then recalibrate and go again.
that's right.
So, how can we bring this into real life? Well, once again, I'm going to give you something to do for the week. It's something that, as we said, listening to something is not enough, is it? If we can put it into practice and make it part of our life, that's where the real benefit and transformation is going to come from. So think of a conversation perhaps that has been lingering. You know you've got to have it with someone, but you've been avoiding it. You've been putting it off. Maybe it's going to be delicate or tricky, and you're just not quite sure how to go about it. Just ask yourself these questions. What emotional charge does this carry? Why is it going to be, or why do you feel it's going to be an emotional discussion to have? You could say, ask yourself, what does my body need to feel grounded before going in? What do I need to do to just make myself feel a little bit more comfortable with the conversation? And based on what I know about the other person, how might they need to receive this? So that might mean that we just choose something to do a little bit differently. Now, it could be what we've just talked about, grounding yourselves with some breath work before, just to calm the situation. Look, it could even be just choosing a better time of day. We
Mm,
know some people are not morning people. It's no good trying to talk to them about important things in the morning. Better to wait till the end of the day or the weekend when they're more relaxed, more open
mm,
to what you might have to say to them. Um, Perhaps talking to people in a different tone of voice, in a calmer tone of voice, not berating, not critical, but in a kinder tone. Or maybe we can open the conversation by inviting them to talk first and we listen before we offer our perspective. So, there's, I think, an important thing to remember here. We're never going to get it perfect, but if we try some of these things to help the other person understand that we are trying to connect with them, we're trying to talk calmly and remain calm and unemotional. And these are all ways that we can do that. And if we remember why we're doing it, because we want to communicate on a different level, we want to connect with people and we want to be heard and we want to hear other people.
that's right. And I like that tip that you gave, perhaps listening first before offering your perspective. And of course, when we talk about truly listening to someone, it's about mindful listening. We've talked about this before, is actually listening to everything that that person has to say without responding. Because quite often we hear something from someone and our we want to jump right in there and respond. But actually, by doing that or by thinking about what we're going to say when they're finished, we miss out on parts of the conversation. So, if we are going to engage that tip there, just keep in mind about mindful listening, hearing everything that they say without responding. Then we get our turn, right?
That's right.
Okay, so let's wrap this one up. We've spent the last three episodes helping you decode the deeper levels of communication, mastering meaningful communication. We've talked about the filters, the patterns, and the physiology that shape how we connect with each other. So today, of course, was about those emotionally charged moments, the ones where it's not about getting your point across, but staying present, staying safe, and actually being able to connect with the other person. We've talked about how the amygdala and the vagus nerve play a role in whether your words land or whether they get lost and just are not even heard and understood. We've talked about regulating your body and how that is just as important as choosing the right words. We can get all the words correct, or at least what we want to say. But if we're feeling tense and jumpy and dysregulated when we're communicating them, then that is going to come across in our communication because, in fact, only 7% of communication is about the words themselves. And then, of course, curiosity and self awareness, these can turn a potential argument or misunderstanding into a meaningful exchange. So stay curious and continue on that journey of self awareness.
And remember about the breathing exercises that we discussed. They really are so effective. They've been around for a long time for a reason, and they still prove to be one of the most powerful ways that we can reset, regulate ourselves again in the middle of a difficult moment.
Mm.
So, unfortunately, this series is might be coming to a close, but the work of deepening communication is actually lifelong.
Mm.
It's something that obviously we are already communicating with people, but this series has been about really honing our skills in becoming a much more uh, skillful communicator with other people and everything that involves.
That's right. And in our next episode, we are going to be moving on to a brand new topic. But if this series has helped you, please go back and revisit them, listen again, share it with your team, your partner, or someone maybe that you've been struggling to connect with. Right. Remember to follow and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And we would absolutely love it if you'd share a comment on this particular episode or any that you listen to. Let us know what you've taken from it. What have been your light bulb moments or your aha moments? And please leave us a review. It does help more people find us, and we really appreciate it. We really appreciate you helping us spread the word. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for listening. And until next time, remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Brain Changers. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Our mission is to reach as many people as possible to help them revolutionize the way they think so they can change their brain and create profound transformation. Please help us broaden our reach by sharing this episode with someone you know will benefit. And remember to tag us on socials at Moonbeam Monday and leave a review. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. We'll catch you next time for another episode of The Brain Changers.